Well, good evening once again. It's Monday night. It's time for the Monday Review Show. This is where we talk all things referees and refereeing, decisions made and some not even made, as we'll be discussing a little bit later on. If you'd like to make any comment or contribute to the show in any way, you're more than welcome to do so. There's a little space down on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. You can put your comments in there, and we'll certainly flash them up on the screen and answer the query that you may want answered. I'm delighted to be joined once again by my regular guest, former Premier League referee, former FIFA referee, former head of the PGMOL, and the man who got introduced Goal Line Technology, which has proved to be a tremendous asset. Keith Hackett, thanks for joining me, Keith.
Pleasure.
Right, so hey, where do we start? You and I were talking off air, and we seem to be discussing this same subject. Aha, yes, fantastic.
And then,
oh my goodness. Yeah, the pulling, and can you stick it up again, Keith? There it is, yeah. Yeah, the pulling.
So he's still going round his neck.
Yeah.
But that's the starting point.
And if that were in rugby, that would be a red card, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how long we have to go on, but it's evident to me we're coming to the end of the season. But I think in the close season, the English Premier League, the PGMOL, the FA, the PFA, the LMA, they've got to get their heads together because, you know, today I had an exchange of emails with a former manager of a Premier League team, a former top-class player, who says this is beginning to be a joke. And, you know, sadly, at the forefront of this is its referees that are taking the stick, because anybody that's a human being knows that holding in a game of football is an offence. Now, I've heard the claims coming out of pundits like Dermot Gallagher and others that it's got to be sustained holding before it's penalised. Well, I've looked at the IFAB, I've looked at the laws of the game, Law 12. I've actually looked at the glossary that they supplied to referees. Anybody can go on www.theifab.com. They can go on the website, and I'd want them to do that and tell me, where does it say in the laws of the game that an offence of holding has to be sustained? Now, in this situation that I've just shown you, the Liverpool player has got his hands around the throat of his opponent and then pushes him out the way, still holding the throat of that opponent. Now, 1 or 2 meters away, I suggest at best 2 meters away, is the assistant referee looking on at that decision. A referee, Anthony Taylor, I think, was the referee, our top referee.
This was Liverpool and Arsenal, yeah.
Yeah, our top referee, and nothing is given, not even a free kick. And later in the game, there was a holding offence that was penalised. So I just want people to explain to me why that is not an offence. I would put it in the category of violent conduct, red card.
Yeah.
You know, so why are we not penalising these offences? So in the summer, if Howard Webb's got to do something, he's got to say, this is the line in the sand and this is what we're going to do. We're not going to have a 6-week flash in the pan. We're going to penalise holding offences, wrestling, grappling, pushing, whatever. And I don't think this offence was not in the penalty area. This offence is near the halfway line. So for me, Howard has got to get the stakeholders in the game together and say, look, this really is becoming a game that is moving towards rugby and not football as we know it. And we're being laughed at around the world by the communications I get from very senior match officials and some officials that are in high office in other football associations saying to me, your games are covered worldwide. You're not setting a good example. I don't care who the teams are, who the players are. I'm not into that. What I am into, correct application of law.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't ignore it.
It's been going on, though, Keith. It's been going on for so long, and yet nobody, not one referee seems to have the guts to take the decisions that need to be taken. Like, for example, that incident there. And let's move it on a little bit further. From a corner kick or a free kick where the players are lined up inside the penalty area, the pulling and pushing and shoving that's going on there, and nothing is given. Yet, out in the center of the field, a guy gets a tap on the shoulder, he falls down, and he gets a free kick. And by the way, I always know, in my opinion, the player knows that he hasn't been pushed hard enough to fall down. So when he falls, he grabs the ball. So that in case he doesn't get the free kick, well, I have the ball anyway. So the referee not only should penalise him for a handball, he should give him a yellow card as well. But they're not doing that. So now I'm not sure you have the answer, nor do I. But that kind of thing has to stop. It's spoiling the game.
Yeah, I think it is spoiling the game. I don't think it's in the spirit of the game, the laws of the game.
Absolutely not.
And I do think that it is damaging, tarnishing, if you like, the image of the Premier League. So, you know, if the PGMOL are not going to do something, then the board of directors of the Premier League, the PGMOL, which represented by the Premier League, the Football League and the FA, they need to be saying to Howard Webb, look, it might be indoctrinated in refereeing and in the game as a whole. I think there's got to be action taken. You know, this week, Anthony Taylor, the same referee that I've criticised, I applaud because on 2 occasions in that game, 2 players, separate players, went down injured. He instantly recognised it wasn't an head injury and the play continued. And what was so ridiculous in a sense was that he got praise for doing that. And I think the commentators are not daft. You know, those that write about the game are not stupid. They know what's going on. And I think that what we see is higher levels of cheating. You know, we've got that we know as a means of a tactical break or a game, a game's gaining momentum. They've got flow, they've got pattern. All of a sudden, what does the opposition want to do? I'm sure there's a signal goes in that says go down and stay down. Oh, rub your head if need be and stop the momentum.
And that's not a new thing, by the way. I remember in South Africa, I was refereeing a match in Pretoria and I saw the manager telling the player, I caught him in the corner of my eye, go down, go down, go down, because he wanted to come on to give instructions. And the guy went down, hardly being touched. And I played on. Oh, but I'm injured. I said, no, you're not injured. I saw what your manager did. You're not getting a free kick. I'm going to play on. And that's what they're doing. They're being schooled. They're being coached. They're being caught to duck and to dive and to cheat. And sadly, from our point of view as referees, we are allowing them to get away with it. Now, it's time for the powers that be at the head of that, in your instance in the UK, it's time for Howard Webb to do something about that. But, you know, he's 2 years in the job now, and he's done very little to improve the standard. In fact, if anything, standard's probably gone down instead of up. Yeah,
and I think the area that we're looking at is in an umbrella, if you like, of acts that are punishable that are going unpunished, penalty kick or free kick, if it's in the penalty area. And the other one I just can't get my head around is when a player is clearly simulated.
Yeah.
The referee has seen it as simulation and not awarded a penalty kick. Or in some instances, he's awarded a penalty kick and there's a review that goes on and the penalty kick is rescinded. What is happening to the player who has actually simulated? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas the law again says for an act of simulation that deceives the referee, that is a yellow card. Now, I'm not looking old-fashioned here, but I think that if we, as match officials at the very highest level, allow these things to continue, it makes life very difficult for those 30-odd thousand referees in England alone to referee at grassroots level and just above.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that we don't want to be the stars of the show. We want to facilitate a game. But, you know, we've moved from the era when in 1857 there was no referee and there was an adjudicator that sat in a pub and usually drinking alcohol or mead, and he used to come out with a stick to adjudicate a decision. We've gone past those days, and we're you know, we've got professional referees in England earning $250,000, the odd one, and okay, I don't have a problem with that, but earn it. And I think that if you're the boss of the PGMOL, don't be the captain of the Titanic.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, the iceberg, you're running past it and rubbing shoulders with it because you're not taking the appropriate change in direction. And yes, it's gone on for a long period of time. But I think that now the PGMOL, the Premier League and the other stakeholders in the game have got to say enough is enough. Because we've got some really skillful players. Saka is an extremely skillful player for Arsenal. And I'm just giving it as an example. And what the opposing coach is likely to say, whoever it is stop him. But instead of stopping him with skill, stop him by any means. And therefore, that's the holding, the pulling, and let's try and, you know, take the cynical view of putting him out of the game at worst.
It's like to say taking one for the team. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. The red card for Jackson of Chelsea. Do you remember that one? Where he went in with the elbow. Why did it take the referee so long to make a decision and then finally had to go to the VAR?
I can only assume. Let me try and be fair to the referee and give a reason.
Yeah, and as we are, I mean, we're not here to
maybe he just didn't have the viewing angle that he should have had. Now, that in itself is a negative for a top class referee, because the movement of a referee, the positioning, the viewing angle, the whole abilities to see, recognize, think and act. And therefore, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt he didn't see it, because had he seen that, there is absolutely no way that is a yellow card. So he's issued a yellow card. So I put a defense in that he's not seen it, but he saw something because he gave a yellow card. Now we go through the machinations of having to go to the screen to look what is a simple decision.
Yeah.
Bent elbow, straight forehand. It's a red card. It's not even doubtful.
It was a real Mick McManus, wasn't it? Forearm smash.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think this is the difficulty, isn't it, with the VAR, because we've got VAR and of course we've got the semi-automated offside system operating as well. There was a decision this weekend in a game where the attacking player who was given offside, both his feet were in his own half. The defender's feet were in the defending half. But when you looked at the clip, it was the shoulder that was ahead of the defender. And therefore, because you can score with the shoulder, because of the definition of handball, that is why he was ruled offside. My only doubt is the equipment that is being used that good?
So just on that, Keith, where it goes from the under the armpit, so somewhere around there. But now, what about? How do you know if the ball hits you there? What about some of the ball hits you there? How do you decide?
Well, that then becomes that then becomes the judgment of the referee. We have to rely on the referee.
He surely can't make a decision without going to the VAR.
In just the same way, there was a contentious penalty awarded in the Barcelona game, and I was sent photographs of that, and I said, look, I think the referee, for me, it's not a penalty kick because the arm was in a natural position. My judgment, arm in a natural position, down by his side, and the ball struck. And I said, look, there's no movement of the hand and arm towards the ball. I think that the whole aspect is how you as a referee at the elite level, setting the example, how you're always learning and continuing your learning pathway to achieve excellence in every game. But across the group, there's a level of inconsistency. And I think, there's a lot of subjective decisions within the laws of the game.
Sure.
But you can take that subjectivity, part of it, away by having the referees in a room, by showing these video clips, by discussing them and saying, right, ladies and gentlemen, what is your decision now in this? And then when they've made it as a group, you then say, this is our expectation going forward. Our expectation is on every occasion, this will be classed as handball or not. And I think that's how you take some of the subjectivity out of the officiating.
Okay. You're watching the Monday Review Show. This is the show where we discuss all things refereeing. I'd still like to hear your comments. If you have any comments or like to ask any questions, you can certainly do so. A little thing there on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Joined as always, and very thankful for it, by Keith Hackett, former Premier League, former FIFA referee, former head of the PGMOL. And it's to the PGMOL we want to go next. Now, Keith, the money, the salaries, the match fees, whatever, comes from the Premier League, the FA, the Premier League, and the Championship. Is there no way that the PGMOL, as a separate body, could get a separate and independent sponsor? Because once somebody's paying your salary, they feel they have the divine right to shout and scream and blast you and so on and so on.
Well, when I took over the role years ago, the first thing I did was I recognized at that particular time, cricket was sponsored, umpires, and so were the rugby union referees. And I then thought, well, if they can be sponsored, so can we. There was no referee group in the world at that time sponsored. So I went to the board of directors and said, I'd like to get a sponsor, and they set me free. And the outcome of that was securing a substantial package over 3 years from Emirates Airlines, who were actually terrific to work with. They took on the role of, meeting the FIFA criteria for the size of the badge on the shirt sleeve, because it was restricted, unlike rugby. FIFA restricted where and how you could put a logo.
Yeah.
It was interesting because at that time, I don't think any group had approached them with regard to the sponsorship of referees. So as a consequence of that, we became the recipients of a substantial amount of money from Emirates. When Emirates, after 3 years, concluded that deal, we then moved to AirAsia and then Tune, the same company. So for a number of years, and now I think it's a gaming company that's involved. Yeah. So the answer is that when you're thinking about a total sum of 5 million, that was my budget, that was my, if you like, turnover. When I left, it was just around 6 million in my final year.
Mm.
A good part of that was secured from sponsorship. There was no way we could secure that level of sponsorship to give us the money to cover the entire costs.
And that's again, is that just for the Premier League? That's for, yeah, just the Premier League and the Championship, is it, or all?
And the Football League. So what we had, yeah. So effectively, the PGMOL are responsible for all match officials at the professional game level.
Yeah, and that goes right down to League Two, does it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So and I think the national list as well now.
Oh,
so
right.
So within that, I set a business plan. My business plan literally said to create a cadre of world-class referees.
Yeah.
So it was as simple as that. Then I broke it down into the introduction of sports science, sports psychology, and all that went with it.
Yeah.
And the PGMOL, the board of directors is made up of representatives of the funding organizations with an independent chairman.
How independent?
Well, I thought that the chairman I had had been a member of the Football League board. He'd been a member of the FA board. He'd refereed football.
All right, so he was a referee.
And he was chairman of Colchester. And therefore he had power. He had a great ear. And, you know, he'd make certain that you were in check. I mean, in fairness, I thought he was an excellent chairman. I was very lucky to work with Peter Hurd at that time, through that period. You know, I wasn't the easiest guy to manage, because one of my reasons I felt was to actually be transparent, to open up, to add value to refereeing, to get, you know. So I brought in the media to watch us train, to sit and listen to how we discuss things, because I wanted them to understand it wasn't us running out on a Saturday afternoon without having to put the work in that a professional footballer put in. You know, they trained very hard, so we increased the fitness levels, all that goes with it. So Mike Riley finished up as the managing director of the PGMOL. So he'd elevated his way through that system to be the managing director. I was the general manager. And I think Howard is head of refereeing. So I would meet the board once a month. And, you know, and I would report on the league table of referees marked by assessors, the league table marked by the match observers, with former managers and players. And then they would have that. They'd have that information. They would know the top referees are and those that were struggling. They would want to know the advice and training and support we were giving for those referees that were not delivering. Ultimately, I would make a recommendation if I was going to drop the referees into the lower tier. Now, at that time, only the professional referees were at the Premier League level, not at the Championship. So in recent times, Howard Webb, first of all, the turnover, by the way, now is £39 million.
Wow.
And this is the last set of accounts. They were delivered to Company's House and posted on May the 3rd. And the bottom line is they ran at a £900,000 loss.
On a budget of 39 million.
Yeah, and Howard Webb has actually requested more money. A further 5 million per year, I think, is what has been quoted in the media. So so what he's also come out with is an interesting view, and that is he's going to introduce next season promotion between and relegation between SG1, which is the Premier League, and SG2, which is the Championship. But see, that's great to say it, but I'm not so sure he's thought it through. And the reason I say this is these referees are employed. Secondly, they have a different pay scale. We can talk about Anthony Taylor earning $250,000 at the top. We talk about Championship referees earning $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
So there's a difficulty. How do you cope with a referee in terms of his salary if you demote him to SG2? Because the referees are represented by a union, they are employed, and I'm telling you, when you need to take someone off the list or demote them, this is a business. Out there are employment law that protects the employer and the employee, and you've got to demonstrate a real duty of care towards that individual that you are dropping down. Because if you're dropping him down to the Championship, is he going to make the same level of money? Is he going to be earning the base salary? Is his salary going to be changing? But the one word in this is I can tell you that at the time, the chief operation director of the Football League was Andy Williamson. And when I said, I'm going to demote a particular referee down to the Football League 1, as it was then, the Championship now, all hell let loose, because he's saying you're degrading my competition. My competition's as good as the Premier League. So he's not being downgraded. I don't want downgraded referees. I want the best referees available to my competition. Yeah. So I suspect it's great to throw away these lines, as Howard Webb has done, and behind them, he's got to have the mechanics and the business to actually justify that. On whose basis?
Yeah, could that not have been built into their terms and conditions when they get promoted to SG1? That if there comes a time when their form is so bad that they have to go down, then their salary will also drop.
But that's not currently built into the conditions. And if you're a current, yeah, I understand that. If you're quite right, for a new referee coming on, you could write that into the conditions, right? For those existing referees, I think you would have to battle with the union to get any changes to their existing conditions.
No doubt, no doubt. My goodness, the time went so quickly again. Thanks very much again, Keith. I've got a bit of a cold. Hopefully it'll be gone by next week. But for you out there watching, thank you for watching. We'll do it all again next Monday, same time, same place. 8 o'clock. Until then, goodbye and God bless. Thanks, Keith.
Bye. Bye.